Episodes 4 through 6 of The Legend of Vox Machina dropped last night. Let's talk about them. Actually, first, can we talk about when Amazon drops these episodes? They come out at midnight GMT time, which for me is 7 p.m. Thursday night. So there is no Is It Friday yet. We're getting episodes of Vox Machina the same night we're getting new episodes of Campaign 3. Anyways, these episodes were much better than the first 3, specifically the first 2, which is where I had the majority of my problems with. While I still have criticism, my enjoyment was mostly night and day from those. And yes, I know this is a Kickstarter-backed show for Kickstarter fans, and that it's hours of D&D condensed into sub-30-minute episodes. But this is what we got. I'm reviewing the show as a standalone product because I have no experience with Campaign 1, so that's how I can review the show. I understand that there's more backstory and that characters are going to change and develop, but to be clear, I don't really care about that. I'm looking at this show, like I said, as a standalone product. So let's talk about what happened in the episodes, starting with episode 4. Vox Machina is put under house arrest due to Percy's actions. That's definitely a better scenario than whatever Uriel was going to have to happen to them because he's clearly charmed by Silas. We cut over to Lady Briarwood, who realizes that her tome has been stolen, which sort of sets up the rest of the arc for this episode and episode 5. We're taken back to Vox Machina at their keep, where they're having their weapons and personal effects taken away due to them being on house arrest, basically until there's a resolution to what's going on and their fate's determined. And I want to point out that I was a bit confused about their home here. They already have rooms specific to their own character, like Pike has a shrine, and Percy has a really cool workshop with like an awesome workbench. But I guess some time has passed since their defeat of Brimscythe and their invitation to the party, but that really wasn't clearly indicated to me, at least. Anyway, Lady Briarwood said some revived spirits to get back her tome. They eventually make their way to the keep, killing a bunch of guards, attacking Vox Machina, until it's revealed that light is their weakness. And Pike's current lack of magical ability sets up basically Keyleth to save the day. I like this development with Keyleth, and yes, I know a lot of you spoke to this, that I commented about Keyleth being scared and kind of unsure about her abilities and how she can help the party, kind of just like not knowing what to do. That's on purpose because that's how Keyleth was. But she steps up and saves her friends, and I like where they're going with this development for Keyleth. The following morning, we see Percy getting ready to head out to tackle this revenge on his own, but of course the group is going to join him. Everyone but Pike, who stays behind because of her lack of magical powers right now. She needs to figure that out before she rejoins them. And being familiar with how much Ashley Johnson was out of Campaign 2 due to acting jobs, basically out of Critical Role, I'm assuming that this is what happened in Campaign 1 at the time, that Pike didn't actually go with Vox Machina to Whitestone because Ashley was working a job. So, you know, what they did here seems fine to me. I wonder how or if Pike will rejoin them at all, but we'll have to watch and wait for that to play out. And it probably wouldn't make sense to rewrite what happened because it would annoy fans and probably would just really change everything because she wasn't supposed to be there with them. But I really liked what they did with episode 4. I enjoyed Keyleth's backstory and development. We get a nice scene between her and Percy talking about her family and how she might not be able to go back. It's a good setup and it's good character development. I also liked Grog and Pike's relationship. It seems very wholesome and cute. This was completely, for me, a great step in the right direction for the writing. I do have to talk about the animation. I didn't really speak to it in my previous episode on the first 3 episodes of the show. While I like the art a lot, actually. I think it looks awesome, the way they're all drawn. The animation, I find very simplistic, I guess is the right phrase. And if you take a closer look at the animation, you notice that it's a little simplistic in that it seems that only a single character at a time is sort of moving around. Usually the one that's speaking, they'll kind of have their lips flapping and their arms and hands moving a little bit, but everyone else is just sort of standing around looking at them while they listen. And action scenes aren't the over-the-top amazing sequences that I was hoping for. Yes, it's over-the-top with gore sometimes, which is fine. I like that. But we get a lot of quick cuts. It's, you know, like an arm slashing, an arrow knocking back and being fired, but nothing else really going on. It's kind of like close-ups. One animation sequence that stood out for me, and it's quick, I'll give it that, but When Vex runs to get the tome from the night creatures, whatever they were, she's running like past them to grab it and throw it to Keyleth. Everyone else in the background shot is just standing around watching. They're not running away. They're not trying to help. It's just, I don't know. But overall, I really like the suspense and the plot beats that we got with episode 4, Shadows at the Gates. Episode 5 starts with more Gilmore fan service. I can't really put it any other way. For me, the pacing is thrown off a little bit with this. It felt a little unnecessary, especially since it was 3 minutes of basically a setup for a gag of, oh, all the supplies we bought just fell off the cliff. And yes, I realize Vex uses some of the enchanted arrows throughout this and the other episodes. Anyways, Vox Machina is attacked by another attempt by Lady Briarwood to get her tome back. A bunch of undead werewolf things attack the group while they're on the road in their cart. Speaking of the cart and the monsters, they're CG, and for me, just another bad example of terrible CGI in this animation. But Lady Briarwood is successful in her attempt to get her book back, and we get some more character development. Vax and Keyleth seem to have a thing going on for each other. Still kind of awkward flirtation, but good to know. Vex is onto Vax, and she's not for this at all. And maybe we'll get to see why in the future? Is it just because Vex doesn't want Vax to latch on to anyone else in case the two of them need to kind of like split off from the group and go do their own thing? She doesn't want her brother to get attached to anyone else for that reason? Hopefully this is developed a bit further. Otherwise, we have a couple more scenes before ending on a pretty good cliffhanger. Pike is seen getting to a church to try to get her powers back, thinking it's a problem with her connection to her god. And we see the party hanging out next to a fire, just kind of reminiscing about some of their favorite kills. Now this I found to be a little odd. They almost just died, and they're now sitting around being loud around a fireplace while the Briarwoods could be planning another ambush on them. And I said this in my first video, there's a time and place for comic relief, and I look forward to it because it breaks the tension. But the writing just seems to have weird pacing issues with this. The writers seem to just kind of like jam it in there sometimes, and it doesn't make sense, at least for me. I'd like to know what you think about this scene and the comedy in general, how it's kind of playing out throughout these episodes. Finally, we get to Whitestone itself. And I like how Percy described how beautiful and fantastic Whitestone is, only to get the reveal that it's kind of in shambles and a scary looking place. I mean, there's literally I think a zombie giant walking around killing people. Now, I've heard about this reveal with the Sun Tree. It's kind of impossible to keep away from all spoilers since Campaign 3 ties into Campaign 1 a bit. But I think this sequence in the series was handled poorly. I think it was not good, because it was so quick and over with. I only put together what was going on after the screen went black and Keyleth said, "It's us." I had to literally go, what? And rewind and rewatch and actually pause to see what the hell was going on. And it's revealed that the townsfolk that we see earlier in the episode are dressed up like Vox Machina, murdered, and hung from the Sun Tree for basically a nice, "Hi, we know you're here," from the Briarwoods to Vox Machina. It's a great cliffhanger. I just wish I saw the people just a little bit more, a couple of seconds more, so I could make it out what was going on. The scene didn't really stick with me because even in episode 6, we only see them for like 1 second. But let's move on to episode 6 now. Before a second shot of the hanging Vox Machina, we see a Whitestone Rebellion meeting taking place before getting basically interrupted by that zombie giant and a bunch of them killed and the leader kidnapped. And we're introduced to kind of like a sub-boss, toad-looking guy, I think Stonefell. This sets up the rest of the episode. Vox Machina is going to work with the rebellion. Percy's old friend is the leader, and he's the one who was captured, so they have to go save him. We do get a quick scene with Pike realizing that the problem with her magic is not necessarily that she's cursed, but more of a problem with her in general. I don't know, hopefully get more about that, which I don't know how that plays out, because my assumption is that the rest of this season is the Briarwood arc, and Pike is not going to regroup with them at any time soon. So, oh, there was a really dopey scene about the different members of the group giving their ideas for a plan with like chibi versions of them kind of talking and animated and giving their schemes. And I thought this was great. I loved hearing their schemes and seeing it animated. I don't know, to me this is very anime, but it was really funny. I thought it was well done. And I get what they're going for. They're using comedic relief now to lighten the mood, and it works in this scene. The timing is good, which it's been hit or miss throughout the series so far. It made me laugh. Whereas the Fireside Stories, I thought just didn't make sense from literally what just happened with them, a near-death experience. And we move into action sequences after they do actually settle on a plan of action. And I don't know, I spoke about this before with the animation. Maybe they're dealing with budget restrictions, but it's more of the same here. There's a lot of quick cuts. I haven't been impressed with the action in the series so far, and that's a pretty big negative for me. It's one of the big reasons why I like animation and anime, is because you can animate over-the-top, ridiculous action that can't happen in live-action shows. And it's usually fun, even if it is crazy. What we're getting here is kind of like Jason Bourne close-up quick shots. Action is more alluded to, and it's just not satisfying. At least for me. Wrapping up the episode, I like how brutal Percy is, especially when he puts that mask on and all the black evil energy smoke comes out of him. I hope that gets developed and explained by the end of the season. And I love how he has the names of the people he wants to get revenge on his gun itself. It's very Arya Stark kill list. And I think Percy's my favorite character so far. And the reveal at the end was great too. Percy's not the last Derolo. His sister Cassandra is alive and seems to be in some sort of like live-in captive scenario with the Briarwoods. So now my thoughts. Obviously, much better than episodes 1 and 2, especially the pacing. It's not perfect, but I see the scope of the season a bit more now. The plan would be to save Cassandra and the people of Whitestone and ultimately kill the Briarwoods. I mentioned my issues with the animation and the comedy already, and I still have one complaint which I'm not going to beat a dead horse on, but it's the voice acting. Specifically, Scanlan and Grog. It takes me out of the show a bit, I gotta admit that. I didn't have a problem with Pike in these episodes. I didn't really have a problem with her in the first episode. She just kind of sounded a little generic, but that's fine. Ashley's doing a good job. I'm going to double down from my reasoning in the first episode. I thought these episodes were just okay, and then I rewatched them in Japanese, and it changed to good, borderline great. Call me a weeb if you want, whatever. It's just how I felt. It's mostly Sam's performance. I just don't like it. And I recently commented to someone that maybe for me it's because I know the way they sound when they do improv on Critical Role itself. I don't necessarily know Campaign 1 that well and their voices, but I know the way they sound. They sound natural. They're really good at improv, and they're funny, and it sounds natural. And hearing them actually act, at least for Sam, I don't know, it's just not sitting well with me. It sounds awkward. It sounds forced. Otherwise, I think there's still a little bit of pacing issues. We still don't know really anyone else's backstory other than Percy and Keyleth. Those 3 minutes we spent with Gilmore maybe could have been spent with Grog or the twins past a little bit more to develop them. Hopefully we get some of that in the future. I get that developing an ensemble cast in a 25-minute episode is going to take some time and be hard to get through really quickly, but it's just been on my mind. I'll save review scores for my final review of the whole season, but I would say that this trio of episodes was good with some really great moments. I'm definitely looking forward to watching more. So let me know what you thought of episodes 4 through 6. If you agree or disagree with my thoughts, subscribe for more in the future, and until next time, I'll see you later.